Look at me. Hi,
Right.
welcome. I'm Mary Derbyshire, and I'm here today with the High Dive to talk to you about life, health, and the Alexander Technique. I am joined today with Bob Lada from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Bob and I go way, way back. We were
Way back. Yeah.
way back. We were on Tommy Thompson's training course together for a year.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bob. It's great to have you here.
Oh, Mary, this is such an honor. I'm having a grand time already.
Well, let's get to it. So
Okay.
let me ask you, what is your interpretation of the Alexander Technique?
Well, you talked about a high dive moment, and I think that's what my interpretation is. I tell people that I work with Alexander's discoveries, but he had a methodology that was based on prevention and saying no to certain things. And that just never sat very well with me. So I work with the same discoveries, but teach from a positive voice, teaching from yes. So my goal, rather than, identifying patterns that you don't want and changing them, that kind of thing, is to be more active participant in the emerging present and use the Alexander Technique to get there.
That's awesome. So our sounds are funny here. We'll clear up. It should.
Okay.
Thing. So tell me, and how do you go about that?
Well, it's an interesting thing. I don't know that everybody will be familiar with Alexander's story, but in the midst of all of it, he noticed something going wrong when this was happening, sort of grabbing of his head. And his attitude towards that would be, gosh, if I could prevent this, great stuff will happen. And he developed a wonderful methodology around doing exactly that. I look at that same thing and say, well, if I could transform this, good stuff will happen. Because my unconscious has spent a lot of my energy into bringing this into being. So if I can just tweak it a little bit at the end into something that's very clean, primary movement, his term was primary control. I prefer primary movement. Good things happen. So I'm always looking for tuning into the primary movement channel, no matter where you find yourself.
And do you find... So this is, I'm sorry, people watching, it's when I go, I'm switching screens, so just bear with, with the technical difficulty.
You cut out for a second.
So I'm going to leave it like this so we don't have that echo chamber again.
Okay.
So do you see, did you ever start by using no as inhibition? And if so, what kind of transformation did you see?
That's a really good one. I did, and I was never satisfied with it. What I came to find, at least in my experience, is that by naming something, you reinforce it. So by saying no to something specific, you're reinforcing that. That seems to me to be a wasted step, and it actually sends you the wrong way. Mm-hmm. So when I notice something, I say yes to, can I be more open and dynamic with my head and my spine, and wait and see what happens. So it's the same stuff. It's just a different point of view around it. And I've had good luck, so I stick with it.
That's great.
Now, you use an interesting word there, at least for Alexander Technique teachers there, Mary, inhibition. A lot of the teaching is revolved around a simplified model of how human behavior works, stimulus response, and you step into that gap and wait and do what you believe is reasonable. Is that fair to characterize it like that?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, I look at that same thing and I say the inhibition part is what you're saying yes to. And you can be kind of indifferent to what you're saying no to. Mm-hmm. And to take it a bit further, you're not aware of what you're doing most of the time anyway.
Right.
But you're making a mess. I mean, at least I do. So I can be inhibiting constantly by saying yes to what happens with primary movements. And then these stimuli, they come and go. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a story. This was something that worked out very well for me. I was teaching a class once. It was down in a basement. One student missed the class. So I come out of the basement. I'm walking to my car. I look through a big plate glass window, and I see the student over there, and I start waving to her. Well, as I was waving to her, I stepped into a stone bench, right? And I was, yeah, I know. And trust me, I did the greatest role you've ever seen. It was incredible. And I couldn't have done it deliberately. You know, it was only because I was living in this inhibitive mindscape landscape that my reflexes and resources could take over before I realized what was happening. So, you know, I got this teeny tiny little bruise, but all was fine. But could I repeat that? No, not a chance. But I could repeat something else. Does that make sense? You got a puzzled look. You got a puzzled look on your face.
Is it different?
Uh-oh, Mary, you're cutting out a little bit.
Oh, yeah. It's technology.
Okay.
That's okay. Can you hear me?
I can now, yes.
Okay, good. So what kind of language do you use? Is it different language?
It is. I do use primary movement rather than primary control.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I don't feel that control is really the job of consciousness. Mm-hmm. You know, consciousness has got better things to do. So I use that. I do use a gentle nodding a lot. Mm-hmm. For the instability, the inherent instability of the head. For those of you who aren't acquainted with this, your head kind of pivots in between your ears, but the center of gravity of your head is above and in front of that. So your head is inherently unstable, and you have a choice. You can either hold on to your head to work with this instability or allow yourself to constantly rebalance. So I distinguish between holding and balancing, holding and balancing, holding and balancing a lot. And I talk about moving up. I talk about that a lot too, rather than precluding it by, doing this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But mostly it's the language of yes, rather than the language of no. So it's unusual. It's unusual for students. They're not used to that. And some of them like it and some of them don't. So I stick with the ones that do.
So your high dive moment was coming. Let me stop for a minute and explain the high dive, because I'm just going to insert myself a little bit in here.
Okay, that's great.
All right. I took a course on how to do Facebook Live videos, and when I came out with my first Facebook Live video, and I went on Facebook Live, and then I shared it with my colleagues on this course, I felt like I was standing at the end of a diving board, and I was about to take a plunge. Yeah. And then once I started playing around with the Facebook Live, I thought it would be really great to interview my colleagues, my Alexander Technique colleagues, and other health professionals about healthy living. Yeah. So I thought, well, I could create this little once a week radio show or Facebook Live radio show, and I call it the High Dive. Yeah. And so Bob is the first person. I've done a few of these, but Bob is the first person I posed the question, what was your high dive moment? And sure, I think we all have had many of them in our lives, and we remember them, and they're important. So I just wanted to give a little backstory to where this high dive idea came.
Gotcha. See, that's a wonderful phraseology. I like that a lot better than step into the unknown. There's just something really vibrant about it. So I'm going to steal it.
Okay.
If that's okay.
So you're saying that your high dive moment with the technique was when you started looking at what we Alexander people call inhibition. Instead of a one of stopping, it's one of saying yes to possibility. Am I?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's difficult because it's a real paradigm shift, a mind a mind-changing thing. The other thing that goes with that, what I found is sort of the really exciting terrain for Alexander work is being able to step out of your own mind. You know, we do have teachers sometimes who talk about change your thinking. Well, that changes the content of thinking, but it's still the same person who's doing it. You know, if you look at movement patterns, we only move in ways that are conceivable to us, you know, unless it's a complete, you know, shock type of thing. And so how can you find a way? How can you find a way to open to the things that you either don't realize you know or don't know yet? And so the action I take a lot of time is listening, and listening to what is up with primary movement right now? Where is it going? Where will this lead me? Because I don't know. I don't know, and I want to be led into I don't know. And I've had good luck with that.
So in a sense, you're always on the high dive.
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah. So it's exciting, but it's, for me, it's ultimately nourishing.
That's terrific, Bob.
Oh,
well, thank you so much for being with me.
I'm trying to write a paper. We'll see how it goes. You know,
You're trying to write a paper.
Oh yeah, about this. Yeah, exactly. About teaching the Alexander technique with the goal, rather than identifying patterns, changing them, what have you. You know that kind of goal of prevention, to a goal of becoming a more active participant in the emerging moment. And how can
I love that. So
and now it's in public, so now I really got to write it.
Okay, that's right. A little bit of pressure, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, but you know, yeah, it's time.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, this work is great. You know, it's what I'm talking about is as well as what a lot of other teachers teach, not in place of.
Yeah.
So I think with all of this, I mean, you remember that from a long time ago. You know, training to be a teacher is hard. You know, it takes a long time, 3 years and more, presumably. And what I've seen as I've gone to the other side of it, because I train teachers, it takes about 3 more years for a newly coined teacher to find his or her voice. Mm-hmm. And I look forward to a lot of different voices where we can all contribute where we can. I think that's a wonderful thing. So that's where I'm at these days, Mary.
I think that's really beautiful, and we learn. We learn from each other. Yeah.
Because I don't know about you, but I get tired of listening to myself. You know, so I want to hear from other teachers. I want to hear what the students think, feel, and sense, and see where that takes us collectively.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I'm going to let Bob say bye.
We'll give it the big wave.
Okay. And if you have any comments or questions, you can always just leave it on my Facebook page or Bob's Facebook page. And thank you for joining us. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.